Hi, my name is Corrine, and this is the video version of my About Me story and why I founded yourlaptoplifestyleacademy.com. So my post here, if you haven't noticed, if you haven't scrolled down the page, it's super long. And I had to edit it like 3 times to try to make it shorter, believe it or not. Because once I get going, I just keep on going, and I'm a little bit long-winded and a little bit verbose. So if you're short on time, this video is a great way to kind of get just the basics of the story. So I'll rewind a little bit and talk about my first, not really my first job, because I had several, little jobs as I was growing up and tried to start little businesses and things when I was growing up. But my career in the past, about probably, 28 or so years ago. I haven't even counted in a while, but it was in movie advertising. And I had accidentally gotten into graphic design when I was around 18 years old. I had gotten a part-time job in data entry. And when I walked into the place, it was a guy working from his home doing a Christian concert calendar newsletter. And he was working on this it was a really old Mac Plus, and so the screen was like 4 inches by 4 inches, and it was hooked up to a large display. And he was putting some text next to a picture, and I had never seen graphic design ever in my life before. I was naturally an artist, like I always drew, and I did paintings and portraits and things like that, but I had never seen any kind of design work at all. So I had no concept of what he was doing. But I pointed to it and I said, hey, why don't you wrap the text around the photo on the right-hand side? And I was kind of like telling him this within the first 5 minutes of walking in the door. And he looked at me and he said, do you want to learn how to do this? And I said, sure. So he gave me literally one lesson. It was that same night, and he taught me how to move the mouse, what a mouse was, because I don't think at that time I even knew what a mouse was, and how you click once to select a folder and click twice to open the folder. That was my first and only formal lesson in graphic design. From there on out, I taught myself, and this was before the internet. And his programs were all bootlegged, I think. And so at that time they had help files, and tutorials were in the help files. And so I just taught myself how to do it. And since I was already a natural artist and already kind of had a strategic mind, and a mind that could wrap her head around technology and different things like that, it came very easily for me. Now, fast forward a little bit, and I accidentally came across a career in movie advertising. I literally just stumbled right into it. There was an ad in the paper. I didn't know what the company did, and I scored an interview and went there and got the job. And it literally, my job interview was taking an eye from a picture of Steve Martin and putting that eyeball over on a picture of Goldie Hawn. That was part of my job interview. And I did photo retouching, things like that, the newspaper ads, and later on posters and billboards. And I worked on everything pretty much from Titanic to Avatar. And before that and after that. So everything in between, all big movie studios and lots of TV production places and Disney and a lot of big prestigious companies. And it was a great career in that it was very she la la. I could point to my work on Hollywood Boulevard, see billboards I had participated in doing, or see DVDs and VHS tapes at that time, back in the day, that were work that I did, and open the paper and see my work. But the problem was I was chained to my desk. I literally for years worked 15 to 17-hour days. We did not take breaks. We did not take lunch breaks or dinner breaks either. The company ordered in food for us. We went around nightly with a yellow notepad and wrote down what we wanted, pretzels, and we had beer in the vending machine. It was a crazy, creative environment. And there were times when I was there from 9 a.m. one morning till 4 a.m. the next morning. And that went on quite frequently. I never quite knew when the food was going to be delivered, when I was going to eat, when I was going to see daylight next, when I was going to get to go home, because we didn't have like a set, you get to go home now time. It was when the project was done, when the client approved it. And so I have huge chunks of my life that were spent with a primary relationship being the computer, and lots of failed other relationships outside of work because I had to break plans constantly, couldn't get any kind of continual, commitment going. It was just so very difficult. And one of the payoffs of being so in demand was that I did hit like a really top level in my career pretty early on. I think I hit the peak around 31, 32 years old. But what that did for me is there were no big jumps left. There was no more upward mobility. There was no more that I was going to get big raises, big salary jumps, or anything like that. I was looking at the rest of my life being pretty much status quo and cost of living raises. And that was not okay with me, because no matter how many times I doubled, tripled, quadrupled my skill set, no matter how fast I got or how much faster I was than another worker who did maybe 1/3 of the things that I did, there was never going to be a time that the company was going to justify moving me up anymore, because I had really hit the cap, the ceiling on my career, and hit it so young. And I saw throughout the journey all these different phenomena happening. Early on in my career, I saw that the art directors who were way above me, whenever a recession would hit or a writer's strike or something like that, they were the first ones to be let go. They were the most experienced and the highest paid, so the company wanted to get rid of them, and they would elevate us little junior art directors, junior graphic designers, a little bit higher. And because we cost a whole lot less. We may have less experience, but we cost a whole lot less. Well, then fast forward a few years more, and I would get a little higher paid. And again, another recession would hit, because they hit, every few years on a cycle. A recession would hit, and again, the art directors, the head honchos, they would get let go, and then they'd elevate us peons a little bit more again. So I saw this repeatedly, like 3 or 4 times. And like I said, at age 31 or so, I hit my cap. And now I was one of those higher paid people. I was one of the top experienced people. I was pretty much lining myself up to be the next head cut when the next recession rolled around. Well, it wasn't even like a normal recession. What really happened, fast forward a few years again, I was high rolling, I was top in my career, I was top paid, I was top in demand, at least in my own estimation, or just what I felt in my career. And we not only had a writer's strike, but it was immediately followed by the banking meltdown, which immediately followed by the Great Recession. And everybody knows when the Great Recession happened. You kind of know when the meltdown occurred, and how long everything in the USA was just suppressed, even globally. So, of course, me being one of the top paid, all of a sudden work dried up. I went to working about 140 hours per month to working about anywhere from 5 to 10 hours per month. So it was a drastic fall for me, drastic fall from grace. I always tell people I went from hero to zero so fast, it would make your head spin. I also was an investor at the time and owned 4 properties throughout the US, including my own. And I had a flood, 2 separate floods in 2 separate condos that I owned in 2 separate states. And if that wasn't worse enough, and then I sold one of the properties to try to save the other 3, it was just a big, huge disaster that I never wish on anybody. But like I said, I lost everything. And when you have that kind of thing happen to you, everybody has some sort of winter season happen in their lifetime. It's kind of like required for humanity, I guess. But when you have a winter season happen like that, whatever the circumstances are, you realize at some point, well, first of all, you break. and you have to kind of reassess where you're at and figure out your next steps. And I had to reinvent myself. But that brings me to why this website even exists. Is along the way, it did take years because the Great Recession lasted quite a long time for me. It was a big, huge fall that I had. And I had to also try to see what was the line of work that I could do that could carry me through. Because by this time also, the internet had globalized graphics. So I no longer was competing with local artists, or even in the movie industry. I was displaced because I had lost my home. And I also had to compete with places like Pakistan, Romania, and India, very talented other artists, graphic design, but they commanded a lot less hourly rate. And so people flocked to hiring them and outsourcing. And gone were the jobs for people like me. And then not only add to that, but technology advances, and you have things like artificial intelligence, and what that manifested in my line of work was just a plethora of what I call do-it-yourself apps. So people didn't need me anymore to do their graphic design or their websites. They could go on to Weebly or Wix or Squarespace or Digital Business Lounge or any one of a number do-it-yourself programs on the internet, and they no longer needed people like me. So not only was my career line outsourced, but I also had artificial intelligence apps to compete against as well. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, what am I going to do? And I did pretty much assess where the world is going. And the world quite obviously was going and is still going into the digital economy. Okay. And so how do you compete in the digital economy? What kind of skill set do you need in the digital economy to not become redundant or outsourced or someone nipping at your heels, younger, faster, smarter, better? What are you going to do? Well, the same thing that seemingly took my job away, meaning like the internet, is the same place that new careers and new businesses are built. Now, fast forward again a little bit, and I had to seek out the different ways to form a legitimate online business, because if you've been out there long enough, you'll know that there are scams, there are get-rich-quick schemes. There are reasons why places like Facebook, where you might see one of my ads, they're very, very strict on what ads they allow to show, because they want to protect their users from work at home, get rich quick schemes, even though I do work at home. This is not a get rich quick scheme, but because of so many scam artists out there, I have to be very careful on how I present what I've done so that other people can do it too, and do it in a viable, legitimate, above the line kind of way, and in a profitable way too. So anyway, that's getting ahead of myself. I got to get back to the story and try to keep it short so that you don't get bored. I'm already boring myself. Anyway, so I had to wade through a bunch of those teachers too. And I learned a lot of good skills and a lot of just kind of, they were like 80% of what I needed to know. I needed to know that extra 20%. And I finally found the education that I needed and the flexibility that I needed to build my online business. And that's what YourLaptopLifestyleAcademy.com is all about. What I found in all my searching and what I dove into and how I built this website that you're looking at right now is due to what's called the SFM, and that stands for Six-Figure Mentors. I found the Six-Figure Mentors online, and at that time I was just so jaded. Oh my gosh, I literally waited an entire year before I paid $29.95 for their application. Literally, a whole year, because I was just so burnt out by scams and things like that. And I thought, oh, what are they possibly going to ever teach me? I've been to this guru, this teacher, that teacher. I've been through this course and that course. What What are they possibly going to teach me? Well, let me tell you something. I was totally blown away at the teaching that I was given through the SFM. And like I alluded to a couple seconds ago, their system taught me how to build this website that you're on right now. And all through this website, yourlaptoplifestyleacademy.com, all through it are these little buttons that you'll see, sign up for a video series, sign up for a video series, sign up for a workshop series, or just put in the application if you already know that you want to build your own online business. And the reason for that is because I finally found it. I don't need to go through the scams anymore. I built the online business. I do live the laptop lifestyle now. I do have the flexibility, and I don't have to commute. I don't have to obey anybody's micromanagement. And I have a business now that I can call my own brand, that I can promote myself. And it is the thing that freed me from the job. It took the cap off my earnings capacity. Now, the level of effort I put in is the level of return I get back. And I'm not stuck in one line of work. I have taken the lid off my life, and I have a lifestyle now that I deserve. And I believe that you know that you were made for more, and you know you're worth an exciting life that you can squeeze the juice out of. I'm sure you have passions and hopes and dreams and wishes for your life, for your loved one's life, for your kids, for your spouse, for yourself, for your parents, anything that, or you just want to travel or something like that. And you need something that's gonna get you out of the rut that you've been in, or the rat race, or the boss that you just want to fire, So I'm getting ahead of myself. This was supposed to be an about me video, and it kind of turned into a sales pitch, and I'm sorry about that. You can look through this page and look for the link that says sign up for the video series, and that's the last I'll say is a sales pitch. This is really not meant to be a sales pitch. It is meant to be inspirational to you. And so I hope that, if my story resonates with you at all, if you're kind of in the same boat, the same situation, or very similar, and you've kind of already peaked in your career and your earnings are kind of like stagnant, and you're stuck in one city because you got to be stuck to your job and chained to your desk, take the lid off, because you don't have to have that anymore. You are not bound anymore. There are opportunities all over the place, and this is one of them. And this is one of them that's legitimate. So anyway, that's it. That's my story. My name is Corrine, and I hope you avail yourself of all the resources on this website, because I built it for you.